Welcome everybody. We are standing in an unprecedented time in a lockdown period where the world is under standstill. In this situation, we have launched a new program to sensitize by informing certain legal aspects of our country, India at large. I feel the health system is the most important aspect for any country which we are realizing today. Also, parallelly, the law enforcement, and where the law enforcement comes into place, we, the people of legal fraternity, have a big role to play. Stay home and stay safe is the tagline in these days due to the COVID-19 outbreak. But do we realize that a major portion of women in our society are not even safe at their home in this period of lockdown? For instance, an abusive husband is spending longer hours at home, increases threat to his wife towards committing a domestic violence. Hence, we have started this campaign in the name of Justice for All. And we have chosen the first topic of discussion to start our campaign with Domestic Violence Act. If we tell it elaborately, the act of domestic violence has increased in India during this lockdown period, says different studies and news editorials. Thus, the topic of discussion will be Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act. Students, people of legal fraternity, aspirants, social workers, NGOs working for the welfare of the women, other stakeholders and all other members of the society, let us discuss the law elaborately and know what are the rights and reliefs envisaged in the law. Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act. The preamble of the Domestic Violence Act is to provide more effective protection of the rights of women guaranteed under the Constitution of India. Moreover, the women who are victims of any kind of violence within the family and for the matters connected therewith or incidentals thereto. This law guaranteed under the Constitution and the legislature might have intended to render the Article 15 Clause 3 of the Indian Constitution, where it has said that despite the provision contained in Article 15(1), nothing in this article shall prevent the state from making any special provision for women and children. The Domestic Violence Act is a special provision within the meaning of the Article 15 Clause 3 of the Indian Constitution for the betterment of the woman at large. The preamble of the Act purports to say that it is a landmark legislation in the legal history of India, as it aims to drive the society in such a lawful manner to eradicate the injustice on women which are ongoing in the society since very long. The Act is different from other acts as it provides both civil and criminal remedies. That the state government officers shall be duty bound to reach at the doorstep of the victim to render all sorts of legal assistance to her. The definition in section 2A is not restricted to women in her capacity of wife alone. The only requirement is that a woman is or has been in domestic relationship with the respondent. The plain language of this definition clearly indicates for domestic relationship that the Act is not confined only to take care of a relationship between a husband and wife, but any relation similar to it. it also states that the object and reason for enactment of this act is for providing better legal remedy to women in their all capacity. Moreover, any woman living in a family life under the same roof comes under the ambit of aggrieved person and thus can take the advantage of the Domestic Violence Act. Domestic relationship is a very vital ingredient of Domestic Violence Act. The definition envisages a relationship between two persons for its applicability with additional requirements of the living together presently or in past in a shared household under the same roof when they are related by consanguinity, by marriage, by relationship in the nature of marriage, on account of relationship of adoption, or they are related to each other than the family members but living together as a joint family. Thus, in other words, if it could be elucidated in a little different way also, that for invoking provisions of Domestic Violence Act, the aggrieved person and the respondent should be either living together or should have lived together at any point of time in the past under the shared household, and they should be related to each other by means of domestic relationship, or the parties are married to each other or being related to each other on account of their being adopted or on account of being related as a family members or living together in a joint family. Now, this is very normal in every family that a person, whether a male or female, attains self-sufficiency after education or otherwise, takes a job, starts living in some other state, other country, enjoy their life absolutely separately. From there, it cannot be said to have a domestic relationship existing with the person whom he left behind with his relationship. There are brother and a sister, a father and a son, a father and a daughter, father and a daughter-in-law. But the domestic relationship of living in a joint household could not survive when a relationship comes to an end. We can conclude in this manner that every person cannot take the advantage of the domestic relationship for filing an application under section 12 of the Domestic Violence Act or the PWDV Act. Rather, it may vary from case to case. For an example, if I say an aggrieved person went to her matrimonial home after the marriage. The matrimonial home comprising, it becomes a shared household, and the family members like father-in-law, mother-in-law, sister-in-law, all becomes the in-law, all the other in-laws becomes the respondent under the provision of this act, as they maintain a domestic relationship with each other. But when after few years of the marriage, the respondent husband and the aggrieved person leaves or left behind the shared household and takes a separate accommodation by means of rent or ownership and starts living separately, then it could be said that the aggrieved person ended the domestic relationship with her in-laws and cannot take the benefit of Domestic Violence Act, as there is no existence of the domestic relationship. Therefore, the in-laws made party as respondents will be improper. Now, joint family, joint Hindu undivided family or joint Orthodox Muslim family or any family which prevalent among the Indian subcontinent, the essential features of a joint family where the head of the family takes all the decisions and all the members live under one shared roof. They share the kitchen, 3 generations living together, 2 or brothers or more brothers are living together under the same household. Father and son live together. For all the descendants of male persons live together, having common income and expenditure in a common pool of property, held jointly or together. But the nuclear family will restrict the domestic relationship in a much smaller category. Another very important definition is shared household. Clause S of section 2 defines that a relationship between the party constituted under the shared household only can be brought under the ambit of respondent, which includes such household whether on tenanted jointly with aggrieved person and the respondent, or tenanted by either of them in respect of which other than the aggrieved person or the respondent both jointly or singly have any right, title, interest or equity, and includes such a household which may belong to the joint family of which respondent is a member, irrespective of whether the respondent or the aggrieved person has any right, title or interest in the shared household. Now, definitions needs to be viewed bearing in mind that the pronouncement of the legislature justify in emphasizing that need to provide adequate remedies to women for maintaining effectively the dignity and the moral. The right of a woman in a shared household cannot be struck down without a strong legal foothold. Now, the most vital aspect of Domestic Violence Act is when the domestic violence is perpetrated on the aggrieved woman or the victim, or what are the ingredients of domestic violence, to say that the domestic violence is actually committed. The domestic violence on the aggrieved person is considered to be perpetrated when any act of commission or omission or conduct of the respondent cause harm or endangers the health, safety, life, limb or well-being, mental or physical, causes physical abuse, sexual abuse, verbal abuse, emotional abuse, even economic abuse, or any process to meet any unlawful demand for dowry according to the Dowry Prohibition Act, or any property, valuable security, or the act of respondent by perpetrating assault, criminal intimidation, criminal force by means of the definitions as envisaged in the Indian Penal Code. Now, the legislature mandates the assistance from the part of the state to the aggrieved person through police officers, service providers, shelter home facilities, counselors, the most importantly, the protection officers. Now, how could protection officer or the police officer or the service provider will render its assistance to an aggrieved person? Any person or the aggrieved woman who has reason to believe that an act of domestic violence has been or is being, or any domestic violence is likely to be committed upon any woman, may give information about it to the concerned protection officer. Whenever the police officer or the protection officer or service provider or the magistrate of the local jurisdiction who has received the complaint of the domestic violence or otherwise present at the place of an incident of the domestic violence, or when the incident of domestic violence is reported to him shall inform the aggrieved person about her rights which the legislature mandates for obtaining certain relief by way of making an application in the prescribed format before the concerned judicial magistrate, before the chief judicial magistrate, for certain reliefs, for monetary, custody orders, residence order, compensation orders, etc. Availability of service providers, availability of services of the protection officers, the right to free legal services under the Legal Services Authorities Act, the right to file a complaint under section 498 of the Indian Penal Code are the options to the aggrieved woman. The aggrieved person also may get the benefit of accommodation at the listed shared household, listed shelter homes. The concerned protection officer maintains a list of shelter homes in the jurisdiction of the district. It becomes one of the safety plan as per the rule of the protection domestic violence rules to make it available to the persons who are actually in need. For getting medical assistance, section 7 of the Act states that the person in charge of the medical facility of the district, the hospital of the district, the medical officer will have to render the medical assistance to the aggrieved person from the medical facility. Whenever any request for such medical aid comes from an aggrieved person or from the protection officer or from the service provider, police officer, anybody, so it has the law says that it provides a better platform to the woman who is actually in need. Now, how the protection officers are appointed? It is the duty of the state government, where the state government appoint such number of protection officers in each of the district which it considers necessary, and the protection officers of the local jurisdiction shall exercise the powers and perform their duties with responsibility as conferred on him by the Act. The most important function and duties of the protection officers are to assist the judicial magistrate before whom any case of DV Act is pending for disposal, and also to prepare the domestic incident report for a better adjudication and to submit it before the concerned magistrate, to make an application on behalf of the aggrieved person claiming certain relief. Moreover, for issuance of a protection order, also ensuring the aggrieved person to provide legal aid under the Legal Services Authorities Act, to maintain a list of all the service providers or counselors, shelter homes, medical facilities in the local area to make available to the aggrieved person as and when required, providing the assistance for medical examination of the aggrieved person if she sustains bodily injuries, or to give her the support of psychosocial aspect, and make the entire report and forward it to the magistrate concerned for the proper adjudication. To ensure the execution of monetary relief as passed by the magistrate under section 20 of the Act by the procedure as enacted in the Code of Criminal Procedure. Now we come to the procedure for obtaining orders for relief under the Domestic Violence Act. Section 12 of the Domestic Violence Act enumerates that an application to the magistrate, it states that the aggrieved person or the protection officer or any other person on behalf of the aggrieved person present an application to the magistrate seeking one or more reliefs under this Act. The application may be preferred as per the form as prescribed, or as nearly as possible
and the magistrate shall endeavor to dispose of the application as early as possible after filing of an application under section 12 read with other reliefs, which we will come on the next episode. Today we are ending with our first session, and we will come with our next session to discuss several reliefs as envisaged, as enumerated in this act. So, hope this video will be effective and beneficial for all my dear viewers. Please do not forget to share, comment, and most importantly, subscribe my page by clicking the bell icon. Stay safe, stay at home. Catch you again. Bye.